This jungle cactus is known as Rhipsalis mesembryanthemoides. It's such a hard name to pronounce, but for the Latin it looks like a mesem, which is how it gets its actual species name. But this particular plant, I've had this one growing for quite a long time. This one for less than a year. I actually had what did I have? Like a peperomia prostrata actually hanging from this, but I gave it very little light and it started to die off. But I have my Rhipsalis in here now, and it's getting a lot less light, and that is okay because these are a little bit more of a lower lights plant, which I will tell you a bit about in a second. But I want to tell you that I've had this plant actually growing for probably close to about 3 years. You could see that it is in bloom right around now, and typically these bloom from late winter into kind of late spring, and then they start to get these little berries off of them, and usually like white or sometimes pink. I think these are actually white berries if I remember correctly. But this one's a little bit of a hairier Rhipsalis, and these are jungle cactus. They're epiphytic cactus, so they're actually growing on trees. This one is particularly native to southeastern Brazil, and they want a little bit more of a barkier kind of well-draining mix, but I have to say, I did not take this out of its nursery pot, and it's more in a peatier mix, and it seems to be actually doing fine, but that's okay too because I have this hanging up, and generally my plants that hang, I tend to water a lot less just because it's a little bit more effort to actually get up there and water those particular plants. So this one, the fact that it is in a little bit of a peatier mix and it holds on to its water a little bit more, it's not necessarily a bad thing because I'm watering it a little less frequently. Also, typically my Rhipsalis are usually in terracotta pots, which are a little bit more porous and actually remove a little bit more of that water. This one is obviously in a nursery pot that has holes in the bottom, but and a container, a saucer in the bottom, but the plastic tends to keep the water in more. So watering this a little bit less than usual is totally fine for me because of all those factors that I listed. Now this particular plant I have in the tub, or rub-a-dub-dub in the tub kind of thing. I have this in my bathroom, and I have to say that it's aesthetically in my bathroom and I really absolutely love it. But it doesn't get a tremendous amount of light, so I actually have to kind of bring it out and give it some light now and again because otherwise it wouldn't get enough of light and would probably end up having a very, very slow death. But I've had it growing in that area now for about 4 months, and it seems to have been fine, and I just have to circulate it out and to get more light because I haven't gotten around to getting a little grow light strip down in the area where I'm actually growing this. But you could see with my own soil in here, I have a little bit more of a barky, rockier mix for this particular plant because that is my kind of soil of choice, or at least potting medium of choice for these more epiphytic jungle cacti. Now, as far as fertilizing goes, I will say that I fertilize these more on a quarterly basis. Sometimes you get away with a little bit more of an annual basis because they aren't really heavy feeders, but if you're giving them a little bit more of a succulent or cacti mix like a 2-4-7 or a 3-4-7, that's going to be perfect for these plants. As far as propagation and new growth, you could see even from this little stem that's kind of like reaching up right here that you have all these little roots right here, and this, if this kind of like was crawling around or kind of running along the edge of a mossy piece of wood, it would actually just kind of like cling on there and actually start to grow, and you could cut off one of these and actually start some cuttings very easily, and this plant will just kind of root up extremely quickly. So I've had that great experience, and these are wonderful plants to share. And also for those of us who don't have a tremendous amount of light, because these like dappled kind of partial shade conditions, then this is going to be a good plant for you.